Tell us about yourself.
My name is Isaac Chavarria. I have an MFA in creative writing from the University of Texas Pan American. I work with nonprofit organizations such as detention centers and women's groups. And what we do is we have workshops where they create poetry, and then from that poetry created from the participants, we make chapbooks, right? I've also published my work in the Census Review online and Rio Grande Review. And I have a book forthcoming called Pocho from Slew Press in 2013.
And what do you identify as?
I identify as a pocho. So usually when you hear the word pocho, it doesn't really mean a positive thing, right? Positive word. But in my case, I'm trying to redefine the word pocho, right? Kind of like the same thing that happens with the word Chicano. So where Chicano used to be a negative term, I'm trying to make it into a positive term, right? So that's what I've been working on, and usually involves growing up in the valley, and pretty much all the things that happen around there. Some of the things that are different compared to living in other areas.
And how do you express the identity of Pocho through your poetry?
Well, there's usually three subjects that I deal with. Religion, as in the poem Being a Non-Believer and Mexican American Means. So what I do in that poem, I talk about how I don't have the same religious beliefs as other individuals in my family or even in my community. So I started thinking to myself, what does that mean? Does that mean I'm less Chicano than they are? Because Catholicism is very important in the Chicano movement, and it's portrayed extensively. So I started thinking about myself, and what if I'm not Catholic? What I've also done is I've also thought about how it is to live in the valley compared to different areas. And that's what I've done in Un Frontera Pocho and San Antonio. So I had a brother who went to San Antonio, and he told me about how different it was, how different he felt living there, right? And I felt the same thing. I mean, I've lived here in the valley all my life, and then I've gone to San Antonio, I've gone to Houston, even if for short visits or over the summer that I've stayed there. And it feels different. Just because there's a majority of people you might find that are Mexican Americans, it doesn't mean that they believe the same things, that they feel the same things, or they've grown up with the same memories, right? And this whole concept of ideas and beliefs also goes into another poem of mine, Contemplating. So in this poem, Contemplating, it goes over how there can be Mexican Americans, and they can have different ideas, different concepts, beliefs, over the same subject, over the same individual, right? Just because they're Mexican American doesn't mean they have to believe the same thing. Contemplating. Cultural icons under a microscope. Juan Camané, sexist or blue collar. Switch, Edward James Olmos, pioneer or Mexican stereotype. Switch, Raul Salinas, cellmate or poet. Switch, Selena, idol or adulteress. Switch, Alton, Texas, Barrio Colonia or dumping ground. Switch, Las Cumbres Reynosa, Tamaulipas, Mexico. Sister city or travel advisory. Switch, Pocho, identity or identidad. Switch, frontera to border zone. Switch, Pocho to Chicano to Hispanic y back. Switch, hasta cuando I'm topsy-turvy y ni sé dónde estoy or which cultura I speak. Being a non-believer in Mexican American means only attending Mass in case of emergency weddings, quinceañeras, and firstborn baptisms. It means 100 pairs of crossed fingers in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. A non-believer kneels and holds back Amen, the repetition of salvation. It means curanderos, power derived from Dios, are deaf and mute. It means promesas in the name of el Padre and in death. For a non-believer, La Virgen de Guadalupe will never appear. Palm Sunday, Ash Wednesday, Good Friday. To be godless almost means not being Chicano. Un Frontera Pocho en San Antonio. Pregunta. ¿Dónde está the no-license fly-by-noche taquerías, Tex-Mex, buffet, piratas hawked by chicas en minifaldas? Imam, still paranoid, nunca se queda sentada, quiere hacer todo. O, ¿cómo encuentro el chisme de un paletero, corn en un vaso y midnight raspas? Respuesta, quién sabe. But stop by la Alameda en Market Square, tal vez encuentras cacahuates japonés, un gansito de chocolate, photos of Mexican placas, pero aplácate con las morenitas. And during lunch, en Milan Park, cierra tus ojos y será como Reynosa. Español sin acentos, los carros alrededor gritando tu nombre.
Tell us about yourself.
My name is Josie Erin Lima. I'm a translator, a linguist, and an editor. I write poetry. My poetry has been published in the United States, Mexico, Canada, Venezuela, Argentina, and Spain. And I have a forthcoming book titled Ecos de Barro, and it's coming this 2013.
And what do you identify as?
I identify as an immigrant writer and with New Chican Poetics. I came here when I was 13 years old, and since then I've been trying to find identity through language.
And how do you express your identity of immigrant through your poetry?
Especially writing in Spanish, and as you can hear in my poem Las Dos Lenguas. And I also explore my heritage roots through the readings of these Chicano works and other poetry that has influenced my writing. Somos muchas islas. El río y el sol oscurecen o aclaran nuestros pies, lavan nuestras piernas. Somos muchas islas. En ellas construimos laberintos, alzamos vegetaciones de concreto. Nos dejamos caer, igual que la noche, con rumores de ríos y cavernas. A veces construimos puentes y viajamos de una isla a otra, brincamos vivos, braceamos muertos. A veces caminamos sin puentes, esperando renacer en la otra orilla. Somos muchas islas, debajo de nosotros caen unos lazos infinitos que buscan embonar en nuestra nueva vida. Debajo de nosotros hay una piel color de caña que busca atarse a nuestra orilla, que habla la voz de 100 pueblos, que busca enredarnos como cuando en lugar de islas éramos una sola tierra, mecida entre alas de águilas, quetzales y cóndores. Ahora somos muchas islas. Nos llega la lluvia o la sequía según alzamos nuestros brazos. Nos alejamos más cada día y construimos murallas con cenizas y ramas secas. Somos muchas islas, pero en las mañanas, cuando hay risas en nuestra orilla, deseamos que nos lleve el viento y tener un solo nombre. Las dos lenguas. Mi idioma es una pared pintada de obsesiones blancas y negras, es una pared alzada en un desierto. Aquí también hace frío por las noches, por el día se detienen a descansar algunos tristes pájaros. Mi idioma es una pared alzada sin fin, cuya sombra cae sobre mi sombra, es una pared de huesos, con coyunturas profundas, por donde pueden verse las extensiones de mi realidad, buscando verte desarmado. Pero no ves tú ni la pared, ni los huesos, ni el desierto. Ajenos a ti son los pájaros tristes, mismos que son origen de mi idioma. Para ti no existe nada más que tu lengua, esa criatura fría que se adueña de todo territorio, una lengua agria que no conoce otro comienzo que su propia descendencia. Para ti solo existe tu lengua viperina, lengua de serpiente que busca acorralarme desde el día que llegó a mi tierra y comenzó a construir sobre mí esta pared que me ahoga. Tu lengua es la serpiente que busca por las calles, en las leyes, en las escuelas, encontrar mi lengua para cercenarla, para arrancarla de tajo. El único pedazo de mí que germina con el dulce canto de mi madre. Busca serpentina, mi lengua errante, mi lengua de necesidades básicas, mi lengua sumisa que simplemente busca una tregua por las tardes, esas tardes que tu lengua siente que también son suyas. Buscas mi lengua para arrancarla, para colocarla junto a todas esas otras lenguas que has arrancado. Mis hermanos ya no entienden mis canciones, no reconocen mi mano que sujetó sus manos por siglos enteros, y no puedo gritarles, porque mostraría mi lengua desnuda y vulnerable y seguiría su olor a flores y tierra fresca. Mi idioma es una pared con la que has impuesto tu idioma. Cada piedra la colocaste con saña. Nuestras lenguas luchan en una superficie no visible. Mi lengua es la vida, que siembra cuidadosa por túneles secretos. Tu lengua me persigue carnívora. Mi lengua sobrevive, porque mi lengua es la vida, arrullando a hijos y hermanos. Mi lengua es la vida, agua limpia que busca redimir tu opresión Mi lengua es la vida. Hay un mar de paz al otro lado de esta pared. No tengas miedo. Mi lengua es la vida.
Tell us about yourself.
My name is Christopher Carmona. I'm a poet from the Rio Grande Valley. I teach at the University of Texas, Brownsville. And I've published in several different places, such as Border Senses, Vandal, and Fatitude, which is a New York-based magazine. I also have my first book of poetry came out in 2011 called Beat, and my second book is coming out in 2013 called I've Always Been Here.
And what do you identify as?
I identify as Chicano, but also identify closely to Chican Indio. Chican Indio is a term coined by Raul Salinas and Ricardo Sanchez as a search to reconnect with our native brothers and sisters. Not so much a search for our heritage, but as to how we can connect with these two histories. And that's mostly what I'm trying to do with my identity as Chicano.
And how do you express your identity of Chicano or Chican Indio through your poetry?
Well, through the first poem, one of the first poems I wrote, which kind of connect these two ideas, a poem called Café Chistu. And Café Chistu is a mixture of Spanish and Cherokee. Chistu is the rabbit. And so what I do there is I use that poem to show how our histories are connected, how we come from the same place. And I even mix together obviously the Spanish and the Cherokee and the English language, which we all share as in different ways. This, also what I do is to understand that currently we're living in a time which is very politicized. And since 2008, since the anti-immigration movement has popped up, it's really become a focus on the border. And so the poem Checkpoint is about how these checkpoints kind of keep us feeling separated from the rest of America. And so, you know, there's checkpoints all along the southern border. There's not any in the northern border. There's 13 in Texas, and New Mexico has 2. Arizona has none. And California has about 3. And these checkpoints are usually about 50 miles from the border, which makes that border region feel like it's not America. So that's what I'm trying to do with this poem. This first poem I'm going to read is a poem called Café Chistu. It has a couple of Cherokee words in it. One is Chistu, which means rabbit. And the second one is Kawi, which means coffee or brown. Café Chistu. Café Chistu, where are you off to? Are you running across the meadows just to feel the grass lick your toes? Are you running because you're up to tricks, making clay and straw into sticks, and telling us that they're actually men? Are you running to tell us something about them, about blue coats, silver guns, and promises carried on a slippery breath, soaking your people in blood, tears, and ink-stained death? Are you here to tell us about when song was heard, and we could weave stories like a bird? Café Chistu, are you running so that I may follow across the mesas and fields of maíz now hollow? Were you chased by conquistadors slinging scimitars, angry that Montezuma's treasure was cocoa beans and not gold bars? Were you hunted by vaqueros with lazos y pistolas making fences with teeth? Were you beaten by batons wielded by blue-shirted justice when you spoke Spanish on the streets of Los Angeles? Did Coyote pour agave nectar in your ears so that you were deaf to his lies? Did you ride all night on his back so that all you could see were his eyes? And did you wake to realize that you'd only walked in circles and you'd been staring at his rear? Did Coyote take everything from you to remind you that you have always been here? Ay, Café Chistu, where are you going? Are you late for a date that just can't wait? No blonde British bobbins here, just raven-haired trenzas and kawi-skinned dreamers whose ears are trying to hear your sweet, sweet song for suffering and survival. And as you leap from here to there across black rivers and mountains with red dirt, down a hole where a great sequoia once stood, you can hear the wind whispering and the crickets singing, "Follow the brown rabbit." Checkpoint. Idling at Sarita checkpoint. Anzadu on my back seat. Dogs with jobs sniff my tires. Men in green eyes and tired uniforms wave cars on through. They only know one question, toughest to answer. I'm leaving what I thought was America, but was really something else. The question burns me up. U.S. citizen? There are only 2 answers, yes sir, no sir. But Anzaldúa in my back seat whispers truth in my ear, truth that when I have been born in this country, it does not belong to me. I belong to the land and its hodgepodge of peoples mixed together in the great genocide soup. Existing together in a land so hot, it has burnt my memory. U.S. citizen? Simple answer, yes sir. Wrong answer, no sir. Where do I exist? What do I answer? Somewhere in between. Pinned to a dissecting tray, sliced into little pieces. How do I work? How am I put together? Analyze me, label me, name me. My tongue moves too much. I will not be pinned. I want to say that I am not a U.S. citizen. I'm not a citizen of any nation. I belong to this land and its peoples. No fences to divide, only bridges to cross. But I can't say that. And as I inch closer, I need to remember, take sunglasses off, turn off radio, practice answer, yes sir. Don't want to be pulled over, don't want to be searched, don't want to go, just want to go on through. No hassles, no poetry, no confrontation, nothing to delay, nothing to arouse suspicion. 1,100 undocumented aliens seized to date. Am I one? Oh wait, I'm an American citizen. And then, what is this fear that creeps through me? I will be caught, I'll be deported to a land I don't know, I'll be detained, accused of being a terrorist and sent to Gitmo. I'll be forever forgotten, locked in a hole forever. I'm not a U.S. citizen. Citizens have rights. We wave them away when planes crash into buildings. We're just as brown as any Muslim, Mexican, or Mojo. We're all the same, not U.S. citizens. We need to carry papers. We're suspicious characters. Prove that we're not that kind of brown. We do want to overthrow the government so everyone can be equal. We do want to blow it all up, not with bombs and bullets, with marches, poems, and Spanglish. We want democracy not built on the backs of people. We want democracy built for the least privileged. We don't want to be subject to a checklist. Chicano isn't even an option. Have to check Hispanic. Even closer. I'm the next car in the line. What do I say? Can I answer? I don't know. Can you tell me? I was never really clear on that one. How did I determine if I'm a U.S. citizen? Is a birth certificate all I need? What about Obama? They still don't believe he is one and he's the president. I don't even know what a long-form birth certificate is. Is that the one with the printing of your feet? Can you tell me, officer, please? What if he doesn't know? What if he's just like me, trying to work, raise a family, just survive? Do not ask questions. What if he breaks protocol, declares everyone illegal? What do we do then? Do we resist? Do we cry out and protest? Well, what if he lets his guilt get the better of him? He stops doing his job, lets everyone through, no questions asked. Is that possible? Wouldn't that be something? Amigra taking a stand? But here I am. I pull up and lower my window. U.S. citizen, he asks? Yes, sir.
Tell us about yourself.
My name is Gabriel Sanchez. I'm a poet from the Rio Grande Valley in Texas. I'm also a publisher under the name of Irving Press, and I consider myself an emerging activist.
And what do you identify as?
I identify as Chicano for the moment, for this moment in my life. And what I mean by that is I consider identity being something that is fluid and always changing, or should be. And I'm fond of the idea of Vasconcelos' concept of raza cósmica. So I shoot for something more broad than just, one particular identity or one particular sense of perspective.
And how do you express your identity through your poetry?
Oh, like I said, I consider myself an emerging activist in the sense that Chicanismo is something that is activism itself. If you're a Chicano, you're an activist. That's what it really is. And I consider myself a Chicano because of that, because I want to, through my poetry, speak truths about our condition, in our corner of the world. We live in a situation now as Chicanos, as Latinos, especially along the border with Mexico, where we're kind of in a buffer zone, and we don't exist neither here nor there, in neither U.S., neither Mexico. To go to Mexico, we have to present papers and, or prove something of who we are, or when we're coming back especially. And also if we were trying to go up, let's say for instance to San Antonio, which is like real close by here, in our own state, in our own home state of Texas, we also have to prove who we are, so we don't belong. So that's the main themes of my poetry. For instance, The Wall. The Wall is one of my poems that treats that idea of how this sense of division created among our people, by others, is becoming now a physical reality. It's no longer just the imaginary line that divides countries. It's also a physical, wall that is cutting through the land to separate people and to keep some people away. In my poem, The Brushstrokes, I speak about how history repeats itself. Back in the 1500s, when the Cortés and the Europeans invaded, Mexico was populated by many indigenous tribes and civilizations, and there was a conquest that occurred not because the Europeans were so much more superior, even though they had superior technology, but it was because primarily the people were divided. There was this disparity, some were considered more, more closely aligned with certain gods or certain deities, and others as inferior to them because of that. And so there was divisions, there was disparity in treatment, and there's the same thing that's happening now, in our country, where certain people consider themselves, because of whatever economic situation or cultural or ethnic background, superior to others who might want to be coming into this country, even though this country was created through by immigrants, for immigrants, and now we're trying to stop that idea and change it into something else. So history is repeating itself, where there's disparity, and if there was to be some sort of invasion from another power, who's to say there wouldn't be some people that would be willing to assist the invaders because of some sort of grudge, some sort of sense of injustice to them. So it can happen. History repeats itself like that, especially when people don't learn about it. Also another one called another poem called Moctezuma's Ghost. I speak about how we have this sense of loss. We're trying to reclaim our identity. Trying to look at things like Aztlán, the idea of Aztlán, reclaiming our homeland, the idea of the Aztecs being this this identity, this paradigm where that we are trying to reclaim. It's like, okay, we come directly from that, but really in reality, we come from so many different traditions. Not one of them really truly defines us all, but we have that sense of loss, and but at the same time, it's a good thing that we are aiming towards forgiving our past errors, and looking forward to not only regaining some lost past, but also maybe some newer aspects of being, So Chicano, like I said, for myself, for now I'm Chicano, but who knows, if I keep on growing as a poet or as a person, whatever else, I may become. I look forward to that. I'm open to that. Brushstrokes of the end of the world. Brushstrokes, paintbrushes, dripping blood, a picture of the world, formed and nurtured by war. The floodgates of distortion, of lies and half-truths have opened. Attack, attack, attack. Preemptive privilege is the right. Stomp those cockroaches coming under the door. Immigrants, criminals, illegals. We cannot accept the brown paint creeping on the southern canvas. War on terror, war on drugs, war on illegals. War on immigrants. We bring your new Aztec tragedy, an Achilles heel of your own ignorance of the past transformed to repeat itself as the end nears. As Quetzalcoatl approaches Earth in the serpent raft, upon the vastness of the ocean that is the sky blue, you hate me and press harder your foot upon my neck to keep me down. You should fear now, get to know fear. You think you know war, killing our chance to send Quetzalcoatl back by tearing our body in two as you rid yourself of me. As you weaken the body, laying it up open on a field of flowers, as a lover waiting for your love to bloom, as fragile as those flowers you exterminated with bio. Warfare is coming. Quetzalcoatl ain't no god, Cortés incarnate. He comes for conquest and we're the bait for you to hate and persecute, so we can stand on shaky ground like man-made islands, standing on swampy waters, divided, Aztec incarnate. We're doomed to sink into extinction as the prophecy of the Messiah fulfills itself. The imminent coming of the one who will rule, the one who will strike the brush of war against us. As we pray for his coming, as we welcome his hidden intentions, as we pardon his anonymous origins and call him God, ancestral promise, Quetzalcoatl, Jesus Christ, aliens disguised as deities, in their strange ships to exploit our Achilles heel of hate. In the name of national security, Patriot Acts, war on the terrorists, those criminals, illegals, dirty, brown immigrants. Moctezuma's ghost. See the kingdom fall, see the dangers materializing, like a filthy curtain of doom falling to shut out the lights. Darkness presumes its imminence upon all souls, good or bad. This tragedy befalls not just one, but all men, women, children of lesser gods cry in the dawn of this new city, with murky rivers of blood where their futures run, gushing in haste. As the spears break and the ground quakes, remember that we are but flowers, stepped on, crushed and bent today, but like nopal, we pride ourselves in our roots. Let the metal beast thrash about, we hold through to the end of time, like underdogs in a one-sided fight, like the roots of a broken nopal. Moctezuma, believer of myths, rest your soul in your wandering, lament no more, for what occurred here was not your doing, nor God's, but of men. To God we are not like grains of sand, but rain clouds upon the desert. Our tears of blood have summoned life stronger. We were never meant to extinguish. Our clay bodies absorbed the spear of annihilation. It is true you could have spared us all the pain of agonizing loss by a mere swapping away of the vision of Cortés as a god, and let us see you walk again among and be a man among men. Yet as we hold on to meet your haunting spirit absolved of its wrongs, the remembrance of you bearing the weight of the sun, lighter still than your guilt, strengthens us, and we grow strong, and we hold on. The wall is coming down. The wall is coming to town, gonna slice through South Texas ground, sharp, lethal, Romanesque, gonna wound the flesh of victims that seek to pass, cutting through this land that is our home like obsidian knives, tearing through our chest, searching to stop that heart that beats with the movements of millennia. Migrations of our past are echoed in migrations of our present. The lives of men are destined to a constant ebb and flow. No legality rules the movements. No right or wrong defines the action. Nature must take its course, or eventually there will be war, or atrocities that make the spirit rebel, like hunting illegals in the desert like snakes, or shooting bullets at a man holding rocks, calling it self-defense. But you neglect to state that he never threw at you, Mr. Migra. The wall is coming down on us. It's making its tour, all the way from Germany, where it fell flat by the weight of its own hate. It's making its grand debut, passing itself off as new, making a canvas for Chicanos to paint, vatos and rucas claiming the page, picks and axes and voices and pens. We'll take the streets to the end, shouting across these South Texas towns. The wall is coming down. The
The wall is coming down.